Hey everyone, and welcome to Already Cancelled. I'm Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about Star Trek Season 1, Episode 14. It's called Balance of Terror. Full spoilers for the episode as always. And this is notable because this is the first ever appearance of the Romulans.
Yeah,
Uh, and I'm sure they look different later on.
yeah.
I'm positive they look
They've
different
got
later
the
on.
they've got the V, right?
They've got more of a distinct look because when the screen turned on in this, and I was like, wait, it's a Vulcan?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they've got a big V on the forehead.
And I knew they were like kind of related to Vulcans. I knew they had similar
Mm.
ancestry and all that. I knew that was a thing. But when the screen turned on, it just looks like a Vulcan.
Yeah, it does.
So naturally, I was a bit more confused because I have more like sort of just casual knowledge from past this episode. Whereas I'm sure when you watch this, in the 1960s, it wouldn't have.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it's presented as it is. But so this episode's essentially a submarine battle.
yeah.
It's there's another ship out there. It's got cloaking technology, and it's the Romulans, and get Enterprise, and they're trying to figure out where it is, where to fire, and then the Enterprise tries to like turn off all its sensors and stuff so that they can't be detected, and then it's like it's a game of cat and mouse in the dark. Is
It's
essentially
pretty good.
what it amounts to. No, it's pretty good. I enjoyed it, and it also sets up a lot of the big mythology stuff where not only does it set up the Romulan Empire, but it also sets up the neutral zone and the fact that there was a war about 100 or so years ago between the humans and the Romulans, even though they never actually got to see what each other looked like. It was
Yeah.
all nukes and stuff and whatnot.
I have a question. Do the Romulans refer to themselves as Romulans? Because their planets are named Romulus and Remus. Obviously, that's based off Roman history.
hmm
So we obviously named those planets. So did they go by that as well? Do they have their own name for themselves?
I think they do go by that, but I don't know if that's just because it's a writing thing where they didn't want to have multiple names for everything, so it's just.
Probably.
I mean, I know they're written to be based off the Romans, and that's why it's all this sort of terminology. But
Yeah, yeah. It's kind of very clear in just the style of them, actually.
yeah, they've got those helmets and whatnot.
I actually love that. That's clearly just there so they can hide not having to put ears on everyone.
That that's probably true. Maybe it's one of those things where they have the idea and go, oh, but it'll also mean we don't have to put makeup on like 90% of
Yeah,
the cast that
yeah.
should
It just
technically
doubles up nicely, doesn't
should technically have these ears. And then of course the prop department's like, yeah, but we need to make like 20 helmets, you bastard.
it? Probably
Yeah.
cheaper than all those ears.
I don't know if it's cheaper, but it'll be less time consuming on the day because the
Well,
whole.
I don't know. The ears would have to be custom to a fit on each person.
Sure, but I think the bigger gain is the fact that they don't have to spend time putting ears on everyone every shooting day. I think
Yeah,
that's the bigger a helmet. Just put it on.
yeah, yeah.
They don't even need someone to help them do that. They can just do it themselves.
That is true.
Plonk, done. Time saved. Whereas Romulan commander's sitting in his chair next to Leonard Nimoy, being like, this takes an hour, does it? And he's like, yeah, just let them glue them
Every
on.
morning.
Yeah. That's what it is. So yeah, it's another episode of Star Trek where it's mostly on the bridge, and we've got decisions being made. It's second guessing the enemy, kind of like the Carbonite maneuver, but this is more. This one's a little bit different because it actually cuts to the Romulan ship, and we see them also making decisions. We see the
Yeah,
Romulan commander react to the decisions that Kirk is making and try to second guess him. So we see both sides of it. This one is a lot more like a. And I like both styles. This one feels more like a game of chess between two people who are really good at their job,
yeah.
I guess. Whereas the Carbonite maneuver was very much we have no idea what the other side's thinking.
Well, that's what that one ultimately boiled down to being poker, didn't it? And that's
Yeah,
kind of that. And then this is chess, where the moves are all on the table. It's
you can
just you've
see
got to
them.
guess what the other
Yeah,
person's going to do still.
yeah. You try to guess what their next move is, but you can see what move they're currently making.
Yeah,
Yeah. So no, in that sense, it's a lot of fun. It brings in some other elements. Of course, there's a guy on the bridge who's very sort of bigoted towards Romulans and starts acting up against Spock once he sees that there's a connection between the races, and
yeah,
they bring in that. The episode starts with Kirk almost marrying a couple on the Enterprise, as they bring up as with actual tradition, captains on ships. He even says in his little speech that since the days of the wooden ships, the one privilege that captains
yeah.
have had is to marry people. But of course, things go wrong during the wedding, and I'm like, I'm a bit interested in this couple. I've got a funny feeling that at least one of them's not making it to the end of this.
Yeah, it's there's no other reason for it, is there?
Not really, no. That said, though, I'm going to defend it as much as it feels like okay, yeah, you've just introduced them here. I do think this whole conflict and this like coming close because they set up that if anyone crosses into the neutral zone, it's a declaration of war.
Yeah.
And if this kicks off, millions of people could die in war because this goes bad. So every decision has this weight to it where, crap, if I make the wrong choice or if I don't react properly, because they're almost going to let them go, and then like both the guy in the bridge and Spock are both like, no, if you let them go, they're going to see
So,
that as a weakness and they'll come back with ships and fight
yeah.
because they think they can. You have to make a show of strength, but even the show of strength might also ignite. So it's a very
Yeah,
balancing the scales kind of
it's
thing.
tough choices, this one.
But what I like about the groom, the potential groom dying, and that scene at the end, because we see a couple of scenes with them in the middle, sort of down the engineering, firing weapons or whatever, but we see them at the start of the wedding, and we see at the end, Kirk goes to the chapel to meet the it's not really a widow because they didn't get married, but the almost
Yeah.
widow, and she's upset, and he comforts her. I like that for Kirk because it's like and for us as well to an extent, but certainly for Kirk, it's like this is why those decisions all had weight because lives are at stake. And even though it's not someone we really knew, because they were basically just introduced at the start of this episode, and for this purpose, it gave him something personal to say. Right, this is the cause and effect of all the decisions I'm making, and this is terrible. It would have been much worse than this had it not gone well.
Yeah,
But
this is the war on a microcosm, just so
yeah,
he can immediately see it. But I think it's much more effective than any other red shirt that we typically get because we
oh
did
yeah,
get scenes with this person. We get like not much, but it was about to get married. There was something to him.
yeah. And there's that one scene in the middle where they're together, and they mention that they're still getting married, and they're excited about it, and he's like, "Oh, I'm still your superior officer right now. Don't."
Yeah,
Yeah, and they've got a bit, and it's not much, but it's enough just to make them feel a little bit more like a person as opposed to just someone who's taking orders like a red shirt does.
yeah,
And it gives it that just this here's the effect. There was consequences to everything that just happened. It wasn't just
yeah. It was
for
like even
excitement.
though you made the best possible decisions and you came away essentially winning, it wasn't necessarily easy. There was still losses to even that.
Yeah, and I think it's a double-edged sword because obviously you go, well, wouldn't this be more effective if it was a character we'd had and we cared about? And I'm like, it would be, but in a show like this where you're constantly having conflicts, for us to lose a character that's a regular and care about every time there's something like this, we'd be losing main characters left, right, and centre like
Yeah, it's just unfeasible, isn't it?
every couple of weeks. And then that would be bad from a viewer perspective because we never have time to be attached to anyone because they keep getting replaced because they keep dying.
Feels
So
kind of like Game of Thrones.
oh, so is that a criticism? You making a wee dig?
Oh, I'm just saying,
Okay.
if this is what it would done, that's kind of what Game of Thrones does. Just you learn, don't get attached to anyone because they're probably going to be gone.
Which makes it feel cold, and you don't really care.
And that's fair. It's a fair criticism.
Yeah. But nah, so that's kind of what I like that, and I like all the excitement, all the second guessing, and the fights, and like so the Romulan commander at one point like releases debris because they can't see the ship because it's cloaked, but they'll see the debris, and it almost tricks Kirk into firing, but it's just debris.
Yeah,
But then later on he does that same trick again, but he hides a nuke in it that's coming
yeah,
towards the ship, and Kirk just has to like figure it out at the last second, like fire. There's a
yeah.
metal object on there, fire it. So no, it's good stuff. Good lot
It
of
is.
lot of it. Very exciting episode. The action was very good. It sets up a lot for the Romulan kind of mindset, because that one thing at the end where they actually finally come on the screen at the end, and the commander's like, "No, we're not beaming over. You're not taking the survivors and helping us.
Yeah,
That's not
going
our
down
way.
with the ship.
We're going down with the ship." And it's got a strategic element as well because it also means that Earth and the Starfleet can't
Interrogate them.
not even interrogate, just analyze their technology and their weapons and their cloaking systems and
Yeah.
everything, like all of that stuff. So it makes sense from that point of view, but you get who they are. But I actually really like reading his reactions to Kirk throughout it. He keeps he's like, "Oh, he's a sorcerer." That one, I think he says at one point.
Yeah. They're constantly like underestimating each other and then
Yeah.
going, "Oh, actually, they're pretty good." Like both him and Kirk are doing the same.
Yeah. And at the end, he's like, "Well, you know, in another life, maybe we could have been friends.
Yeah.
You are my
It,
equal,
it
kind of
it
thing."
it really plays into that militaristic kind of element that the Romulans have right here, where it's like, they respect the fight.
Yeah. Uh, it's funny because obviously it's different from Vulcans. They're very passionate, and yeah, there's planes going by, um, our own starships in the mist. But they're very different from Vulcans because they're very passionate as opposed to being very sort of logical.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're very all about duty for very different reasons.
Yeah, it's like there's an actual desire to win rather
Yeah.
than just a desire to prove themselves rather than just do it because it's the thing to do.
They're obsessed with honor. At one point, his second in command says, "Allow me the glory of the kill." You never hear a Vulcan say the glory of the kill.
No, no, you don't.
I'm pretty sure you wouldn't hear a Vulcan say the word glory. The word glory, like, they may as well not understand what that means
Probably not.
because it's really not what they are. So again, it's very very different to them, and that's cool. It works. It sets all this stuff up. It's a very important episode, obviously, in Star Trek for that reason, because it does set up this race that's going to be around, and we're going to see maybe not quite as big as the Klingons. I feel like once you get to next gen, Klingons, of course, are a bigger deal, but
Mm. I mean, I don't have as much knowledge at that point.
well, as a member of the Starship
Well,
crew that's
yeah, yeah,
Klingon
but
next gen.
are the Romulans not still a regular enemy
Oh,
at
they
that
are, they
point?
are, and they've been in the movies. They were in the first Abrams movie.
Yeah, yeah.
Romulans. So I mean, they're a regular thing. I feel like they often get overshadowed by the others, though, like Vulcans and Klingons and the Borg, even and
Yeah, yeah.
and next gen. Like there's bigger names, but the Romulans are a staple that are
Yeah, I mean,
always
like
been
we just
there.
they've been introduced fairly early on in the show's mythology,
Yeah,
and then obviously they've lasted for up till present day, so they're kind of there throughout the whole thing, aren't they?
yeah. So no, that's pretty much this episode. I again I liked all the games of cat and mouse and all that. I liked. It almost gave me like a Jaws vibe at some points because the other ship was invisible and they were trying to like
Mm,
detect where it was. It felt a little bit like Jaws, and this is
yeah, I know what you
pre-Jaws,
mean.
which is so it's an interesting comparison to make. But I was getting those vibes. I also really liked when they had the briefing scene and they were all trying to like just like offer their opinions. Like Kirk calls everyone in and they all sit down and try and think things through. And uh,
Yeah, I really like that scene because obviously you've got Bones being the voice of reason, so to speak. Like, no, no, we just can't do this. This is madness. And then you have the new guy being, no, we need to go to war, and it feels like naturally when this happens, the new guy is typically in the wrong, but then Spock sides with him, and that's when it gets really interesting for me in that scene.
yeah, because even though he's being bigoted towards Spock, Spock logically says, "No, this is the right move."
Yeah,
Which is interesting. I think it shows that okay, like you can't take options or opinions from bigotry necessarily, but just because they are bigoted doesn't necessarily mean it's a wrong opinion either, kind of thing.
yeah, yeah. It
It,
may not be coming from a place of
yeah,
logic, but it's ultimately not the wrong call either.
yeah. The point is, it's case by case. You can't always just
Yeah,
blanket say everything's wrong because of X or everything's right because of X.
yeah,
You have to look at each one on its own. But of course, what Kirk should have done and what he did do was get a second opinion of someone else and
yeah,
corroborate said plan of attack. And there we go.
yeah.
That's what leads us to the fight. Uh, but no, a really really solid episode. We've had two really solid ones in a row.
Yeah, I think, like you said, the action was actually just really exciting in this one.
Yeah,
So that kept it really engaging throughout for me.
yeah. This was classic war stuff. Obviously, like we said, the Romulans are very much the Roman kind of empire kind of feel
In
to them.
space.
Yeah.
The Romans in space, basically.
So, in that sense, it kind of works, and obviously sets up a big bit of mythology, sets up the neutral zone, which again we hear about the neutral zone throughout
Yeah.
the show, throughout all the shows, throughout the movies. Like, it's a big
That's one of
thing.
those that's kind of, even as someone who hadn't watched the show, is something that you just know of.
Yeah. It's really fun actually when they bring up the space map and it looks like a really old school map like on the
Yeah.
screen. It's like they just drew a map and then like take a photo, put it put it on
Yeah,
the
yeah,
screen.
pretty much.
So sometimes the charm of like the old school way of doing some of these things is well.
Yes.
Sometimes we talk about how the pacing in Star Trek much like other older shows, is very slow and relaxed compared to normal. This was one moment where I really noticed it, because Kirk says to Spock, "Right now, show us where we are," and it cuts to Spock, cuts to Kirk, cuts to the screen, waits like 3 seconds, and then it comes in, and I'm like, no, and a modern show would be like, Spock, put that on the screen, cut to it, it'd fade, and like it'd be done in
we
2 seconds.
wouldn't see any of that other bit.
No, but this took, it was like a good like 5 to 10 seconds until it happened, and I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah, that would never happen. That, so I felt the wait there. That just felt like wasted time, because I was like,
That's true.
it's not suspenseful. I don't. It's not a suspenseful thing where we are.
I agree, but I feel like those moments were few and far between in this episode.
Oh no, sure. I mean, as much as I'm going to bring them up occasionally, it's not necessarily a criticism of the show. It's a product of its era. I'm not going to
Yeah.
fault it for it. It's just something that's worth noting. What would be different?
Yeah, how things have changed through the ages.
Yeah. So no. So yeah, there was lots of course, the classic shake the camera and the actors will pretend.
Yep.
So yeah,
Never gets old, does it?
it doesn't now. If you've seen the GIFs would have stabilised that footage, by the way, it's hilarious. I think it's from Next Gen. There's one of like Picard on his seat, and he's just sort of like
Yeah,
doing
yeah.
this, and it looks like the most ridiculous thing ever. But there you go. That's the balance of terror. Hopefully, it won't be too long before some of these elements come back in and we see more Romulans. I don't actually know how much they pop into the original series.
I'm not sure.
I don't actually know. I don't know if we get a lot of them before the end of the original series after this, but curious to find out. I know we do get Klingons at one point, and I know obviously we set up a certain Mr. Khan for a
Yes.
certain movie.
That's not. That's relatively soon, isn't it?
It is, yeah, that episode's actually since season 1.
Yeah, I thought so.
We're getting kind of close to it. But no, so let us know what you thought of this episode of Star Trek in the comments below. Like and subscribe and all that stuff. Helps us out a lot. Get us on Twitter at mailed_fuzz for channel updates. Individual Twitters are on the screen for everyday ramblings. Thank you very much for watching, guys, and we will see you next time.